So today will be the part 1 of 3 as we move on to the child of 7 killing. And so as we finish off 7 killing, the reason why it was called 7 killing because it was the 7th element from the day master. So 2 from the output, 2 from the wealth, 1 from yourself, and then coming to the 7th killing, that would be the one that counters the day master. So as we explore 7 killing, we explore one of the classically inauspicious element. And so normally one would not prefer to see too many 7 killings in your chart, because at the end of the day, 7 killing brings death. But of course, through life, 7 killing is it denotes the courage, it denotes the ability to insert fear in people. Therefore, it represents a very powerful, commanding star. And the child of 7 killing. So 7 killing produces direct resource. So 7 killing produces direct resource. And direct resource couldn't be any far different from the nature of 7 killing. So today, as we look into direct resource, unlike 7 killing, which is generally inauspicious, direct resource is always auspicious. Or maybe I may put a caveat into it, as it is. So what is direct resource? Direct resource, number 1, will have the opposite polarity. Direct resource will be opposite polarity. And so if you are a yang day master, your direct resource will be yin. And likewise, for yin day master, your direct resource will be yang. Therefore, direct resource is the element that produces the day master. It produces. Now, the production is different. Now, for wood day masters, wood people are very needy because wood needs the sunlight, wood needs the earth, wood needs water. And therefore, wood needs water to grow. And so water feeds the wood. And therefore, we find that the Kuei water feeds to the Jia day master. But the Ren water doesn't really feed into the day master in a certain way, so it's not too sentimental. But nonetheless, the earth is like a lotus that floats on the Ren water, as it is. Therefore, as we look into the productive cycle, that water feeds into wood, into the plant. As we look into the fire day master, then we find that it is now the wood that feeds into the fire. Now, such productive is sacrificial. Sacrificial because the wood sacrifices itself to feed the fire as the wood diminishes. Therefore, that production cycle is quite fast and sacrificial. On the other side, we find the very slow type of production, which will then be the simmering type of the fire, produces ashes. So as fire burns, fire produces ashes. As you can see, that cycle is slower, but also somewhat sacrificial. And then we find the slowest of the lot, which is earth. Now, in a way, metal can be found deep into the mountains, and so it takes some great energy, time, and pain for metal to be produced by the earth. So therefore, it's a very slow production, and it also leaves the earth empty. It leaves it hollow, as it is. So therefore, each of these productive cycle has its own nature or own type. As we now look into the last, which is metal. Now, in a way, metal doesn't really produce water, but metal attracts water. Metal attracts through condensation. And therefore, that is a kind of a attractive type of production. So that is why one part into the ancient text it says water represents wisdom. It represents wisdom because water people, water people are attracted to resource. And resource is knowledge. Resource is information. And therefore, wisdom is assigned to the key attributes of water day master. Alright, so now as you look into understanding who you are on your day master and what are your direct resource. So to recognize your direct resource would be the first step today. And so let's move along to read the text and to be very quickly, what are the key attributes of direct resource? So if there's any one word to summarize all of it, that may be the word education, the word academic maybe. Therefore, the first attribute is that direct resource people are academically inclined. They are educated. They are self-cultivated. They are refined. They are very soft. They lack the aggression. And they are non-competitive. And so they are charitable. They are very empathic. They are the nice guy. So therefore, that would be the key attribute of what a direct resource is. The direct resource, if resource is too strong, the child becomes pampered. So here in this picture, the day master would be represented by the child, where the direct resource are the guardian angels, are the caregiver, are the nobleman, are the parent. Therefore, direct resource represents mother to the day master. Direct resource represents nobleman, the guardian angel, the provider. And therefore, if you have a lot of resources for the Asian housewife, so to speak, they call it the life of a tai, the life of a person who doesn't need to work, a person or what they call socialite, so to speak. So therefore, that is the reading for the direct resource. They must. So it's good to have direct resource. It is somewhat an element that is always welcoming, so to speak. So when we look into the chart, now when we understand the 5 elements, of course, in the 5 elements, if I put fire to be the day master, then earth will represent your output, and then here metal will then represent your wealth, water now represents the officer, and so therefore wood will represent the resource. If these 5 elements is replaced by accounting terminologies, then the day master represents equity, output represents expenses, wealth represents assets, officer represents by liability, and resources represents by revenue. And here in the 5 elements, a business can survive without liability. I hope you agree with me. A company can prosper even if they don't have liabilities. It's fine if you don't leverage. A business can also survive if it doesn't have a lot of assets. I'm sure some of the disruptor businesses that you know today, they said, no, they say Grab is one of the biggest biggest taxi company without a fleet of cars. Airbnb is like the biggest hotel chain without a single building. Therefore, one can say. And definitely a business can survive very well without expenses. But no business can survive without revenue. So you can run a business without liability. You can run a business without assets. You can run a business definitely without expenses. Not to say you can on whatever business that you do, but a business. But a business cannot survive without resources. And therefore, resource is one of the key ingredients. Even in the analysis for death, we find that this represents a very key guardian angel. It represents a necessity. Therefore, we not often say that every chart should, every part of the chart should see resource. That is one of the understanding of the importance of resource. In fact, when I wanted to start this series, I was pondering that whether I should start with resource or not. But I start with the father of resources. Okay, so let's come back to the chart now as we now come into what is represented by resource. So the more direct resource that you have, basically you lead a life of shelter, a life of protection, a life of support, a life of tolerance. You would feel lucky. You would feel lucky. You have a sense that you have a guardian angel watching over you. You know, sometimes when you watch YouTube or any other social media, you find how some people can miraculously survive even an accident. So it looks so scary. It looks like the person will almost be mad, but yet just in a fluke of luck, the person is safe. Therefore, direct resource gives you that sense. Direct resource, unlike the other indirect one, direct resource is one that gives unconditionally. Unconditional. So the relationship is I receive, direct resource gives. There's no price. There's no price to pay. Now, other elements, if they benefit you, there is a price to pay. Direct resource, none. Therefore, that brings about it. So this is where the symbol for direct resource will be immediately the mother, the parent. They're also followed by the teachers, the elders, coaches, priests. So very often that is why this direct resource is known as noblemen. They're known as noble. They're noblemen because why noble? Why are they known as noble? Because they give without condition. They give without charging. They give freely to benefit you. So that's why they're known as your nobleman. And they're known as your parent. They're known as your guardian angel. Therefore, that is why direct resource, if it is favorable to you, you benefit unconditionally. Now, when the next sharing comes, when we talk about indirect resource, that one comes with a price. Magic comes with a price, but not the direct resource. Okay, so now direct resource is an element that you want to look at, the element that you have, the one that nurtures you, the one that provides for you. Okay, so now let's move on to look into what the chart brings and how you can identify the person's chart. Now, one of the hallmarks of a direct resource, besides what I've already mentioned, represents mother, represents nobleman, represents the ability that can turn bad luck into good luck when they encounter troubles. The downside now of direct resource. The downside now of direct resource is a life that is too protected, that the person becomes lazy. Too protected, the person becomes sensitive. The person becomes too sheltered. In fact, over the last 40 years of prosperity in many nations, especially after World War II in the 40s. In fact, we can say that World War II happened about 80 years ago. And after the end of World War II, we find a group of generation known as the baby boomers. Baby boomers who were born in the 60s and 70s. They were born into poverty. They were born into hardship. Those are the children born from the Great Depression of the 30s, World War II of the 40s. And these people have to strive and work very hard. And then they provide Gen X. And then from there, the economic prosperity for many nations. And now we find that the children, the third generation. So this is where direct resource comes from the fact that when a generation experiences hardship, it produces protected babies. And these protected babies produces you. And then if not careful, you become the third generation. And often in Chinese, in old Chinese, there is always that they call it the third generation curse. And so therefore, this is where the downside of a direct resource is that the person becomes a one that is timid and weak character, overly sensitive, inexperienced, something along the line. So therefore, direct resource, overwhelming direct resource is an overprotective mother that protects you so much that you haven't tasted the real life. A life where not everyone is honest, good, not everyone will always wish you world peace, happiness, huh? And not everyone actually lives happily ever after, so to speak. But so this is what the direct resource people are known for. They have the ability to be so optimistic that they see the goodness in everyone. Sometimes we call them naive, 天真, but then of course that is in their nature. They are very empathetic, they are very nice people to be with. So they are gentle, they are civil, they are educated. That is direct resource for you. And here in Chinese, direct resource is known as 正印, direct seal. So the translation into from the Chinese basically, it doesn't really say direct resource. It didn't really say direct resource. In a way, it says direct seal. If you want to translate it, the Chinese. And the reason why I call it seal is because, in a way, like how the medieval feudal system works, there are always what we call symbols of power. Every monarch, emperor has some symbol. And of course, way back into ancient Chinese, it is the imperial seal that, of course, provides you with a stamp of authority. And the thing about the seal is that it's often squarish. It's often squarish. And therefore, in English, when you say that somebody is square, when you say somebody is square, you are actually saying that the person's thinking is fixed. The person thinking is upright. Of course, in English, we say, wow, you're so square now. In a way, the word that says square also means you don't think out of the box. Your thinking is not out of the box. You are square. You are just the four corners of a square stamp seal. Therefore, when we say you are so DR, you are so direct resource, you are so square, you are so rigid in your thinking. Therefore, the one thing about direct resource people is that if they cannot solve their problem, they stick to their own point of views and they become stubborn. And therefore, this can be also what we call intellectual, intellectual ego. So even though they argue wrongly and they themselves know that their arguments are weak, there's an ego in them that they cannot admit that they are wrong, that they will still go out there and fight their way, insisting that they are still right. Therefore, that is also why sometimes the direct resource people don't get too along well with people, because people might see them as being an intellectual snub, meaning to say that they hide behind their high education, and people felt that they're being looked down onto. That by right there, direct resource is just being rigid, that they are not able to communicate. Therefore, this would be how we take a balanced view about direct resource people. The DR, these are them, so they are the seal, the yin, in terms of print. as it is. All right. So anyway, uh, as we discuss seven killing, we discuss power because seven killing is an officer staff. But DR is also power. Huh? DR is, that's why I call it the direct seal, the seal of authority. And to and if we discuss seven killing, seven killings philosophy is that power is power, might is power, the survival of the strongest. To be a gangster. In this world, we do need gangsters, killers, and murderers. We need them on our side. But here, DR, to them, power is information. Power is knowledge. To them, that is how they see what power represents. Not by brute force, not by physical muscle, but by information, by being an intellectual, by being knowledgeable. And of course, the Chinese culture, not just ancient, even until today, the Chinese culture places tremendous emphasis on education. Hmm? That means the parents, parents of even until today, parents are willing to sacrifice their own lives. Parents are willing to migrate to another country. Parents are willing to do double jobs just to ensure that their children receive much better education than themselves. So parents see their continuation of their lives through the children. And therefore, with such great emphasis on education, that is the direct resource value system. And so that is why in the ancient text, direct resource is an auspicious star because to them that is how they see society gaining status, gaining power. All right, so with that in mind, we do see that a direct of let's take a look into direct resource people that we may know. Now let's look into the natal chart of one of the individuals that have changed a lot of our lives. Milton Friedman. Now the thing about Milton Friedman was that he became very well known for his monetary policy. He's an economist. He's an economist. He's well respected. He won a Nobel Prize in his theory. He's known to create a new economic thinking, which is the modern monetarist theory that replaces the Keynesian post Great Depression. So first of all, as you know the drill. Where do we start? When we look at the chart, we start with the day master. Born in what month? A Wu Earth born in what month? A Wu Earth born in the goat. The Wu Earth day master born in the month of the goat. And goat is in which season? Goat is summer. And therefore born in summer. Wu Earth is strong. And is this Wu Earth rooted? Is there rooting? Can you see that? Therefore, we have a strong day master born in about the right season. And what produces Wu Earth? What produces Wu Earth? Fire produces Earth. Fire produces. So is there fire in this chart? All this is quite clear. Think fire is the direct resource. And fire born in the month of the goat, which is the season of summer, fire is big. Therefore, now we have a strong day master seeing a strong direct resource on the month stem, the stem of the career, the stem of the pillar of the career. And this thing fire is rooted. So this thing fire is rooted. And so Milton Friedman is a direct resource, has a direct resource so-called stem, has a direct resource stem. And this, even though the structure, now when it comes to graveyard, every time when it comes to graveyard, we do not automatically assume that the most dominant chi is the one that is here. That's not the immediate. We also have to look into the date, into when he was born, at the tail end or at the beginning. That might give us a better indication that he may be a direct resource or even sometimes a direct officer structure. But never mind, we won't go into that today. We'll just understand that this person has a direct resource in the chart. Right. So this gives us how we read. So for today, of course, we read the presence of direct resource and uh, where is it situated, located, and how where it can read. So what appears on the stem is what the public can see, and this rooted means the impression is the true impression, and it's very clear that this person has that academic potential. It has that brilliant in intellectual pursuit. So this is Milton Friedman, and thanks to him and his philosophy, countries all around the world print more money today than they did before. So if you are experiencing the brunt of inflation, the brunt of rising interest rates, well, I wouldn't say blame him, but he does have some role to play as well. Now let's take a look into another person that doesn't require a lot of introduction, Albert Einstein. So first of all, we look into Albert Einstein's. His day master is Ping Fire. Ping Fire born in the month of the rabbit. Rabbit is what season? Rabbit is spring. Fire, fire is the next season after spring. Therefore, fire is the growth. Fire is strong. So this is a strong Ping Fire day master. Is this day master rooted? This day master is partially rooted, and it has into the part. And therefore, this is also reasonably a very strong day master. Albert Einstein is a academician. That is also good. And now the question is, what produces fire? Wood produces fire. Wood produces fire. So do we find direct resource to the yeast wood for it? We'll find direct resource here. Therefore, this is your first impression. Therefore, the first impression that you meet somebody like Albert Einstein would be one of an intellectual, an academic, a professor type, gentle, civil. And is this wood rooted? It is. It is rooted, partially rooted. Therefore, it's rooted, and of course, not just is it rooted, it's rooted into the structure. So therefore, here we see that Albert Einstein has a direct resource fasa. Albert Einstein has a direct resource structure, and therefore the true impression. So not just the first impression, but the first impression is a genuine, true impression. And so strong, very strongly, Albert Einstein is a direct resource through and through. Through and through. He would be, he would be in that particular structure that dominates him. And spring is strong, rabbit is at the peak of string. So wood is very, very strong. This is a very strong resource, a very, very strong resource feeding into the fire. All right, so therefore this will be Albert Einstein. So look into his chart. Now let's take a look into another one. We have Marie Curie, one of the first women who won a Nobel Prize, or she was the first woman that won the Nobel Prize, together with also her husband, and she was a Polish French physicist, and she has discovered penicillin, if not mistaken, and so as a discoverer, scientist, very brilliant for a person who has to go through. She has to fought away though in that world. And so now as we look into her, what day master is she? She is a Sin day master, born in autumn. The season is correct. Is she rooted? The day master? There is rooting. Therefore, this is strong day master, Sin metal. What produces the Sin metal? What produces metal? Earth. So earth produces metal. So for the Sin metal, the one that produces the is Wu Earth. Is there Wu Earth? So there is a Wu Earth direct resource. So there is a direct resource with a little bit of an indirect resource over here as well in the hidden. Right. Therefore, here we can see that this represents a direct resource, not a direct resource. But this direct resource is Earth. That means autumn. Doesn't necessarily, normally Earth is weak during autumn, but somehow, of course, there is 7 killing. 7 killing produces direct resource. This is very good. So this basically create a very strong so-called set of combination. We like this. So we like this chart. We like this chart to see that this combination. Because in a way, Ting fire produces Wu Earth. Wu Earth produces Sin metal. Therefore, there's a flow in the structure, making this a good direct resource structure. Okay, so therefore we have a direct resource structure in the first lady who won the Nobel Prize. We have a direct resource structure for Albert Einstein. So these are how we look into a direct resource chart or the structure of it. Now let's take a look into another lady that has, in a way, her name resonates today for those in childcare, Montessori. So Maria Montessori, she was Italian physician, educator, and she changes or revolutionized the thinking of how education pedagogy should be, especially when she looked at gifted children or children with some difficulty in learning. And so therefore, that's why she came up with a curriculum that is not too rigid on academic performance, but on nurture the person's character. So Montessori, until today, remains one of the popular streams of schooling that people go. So this is a Chi Earth Day Master, a Chi Earth Day Master that has a direct resource. Chi Earth Day Master born in Shunt, weak Day Master. Is it rooted? Partially. And here you'll find that her direct resource is the pink fire. A pink fire that is rooted. A pink fire that is rooted onto her hour chart. Into her hour chart. Right. Therefore, we see on the pillar, this would also indicates that direct resource hidden into a grove. There's a direct resource hidden into the grove. Okay, so now we have seen how direct resource protruded to the year stamp, protruded to the month stamp, protruded to the hour stamp. Let's take a look into now another one. We have John Dewey. So John Dewey, also very well known, has an education reformer. So he has also written many books and articles. So as you look into this, Sin Day Master, born at the end of autumn, is a strong sin metal, which is also rooted, direct and partial. So we have a strong sin metal day master. And what produces the sin day master? What is the element that produces a sin day master? That will be your Wu Earth, the Wu Earth itself. And therefore here we find that the Wu Earth, again, is structured with a rooting on with the indirect resource that is protruded into the steps. And therefore here we have yet another, and this direct resource of course is one that has that so-called 7 killing that produces the direct resource once again here that you have this. And if you look at, if you so you have the Ting fire produces the Wu Earth, the Ting fire produces the Wu Earth, comes into. So that's a 7K to the direct resource, yeah, as it is. Alright, so this will be where we look into the presence of direct resource in all the charts. So now as you go along, let's now just take one more. We have your so here we see this is a chart. This will be a pink fire day master, born in winter, very weak. Do you find rooting? No rooting. So you have a weekday master. What produces fire? Wood. And so we have direct resource over here. So wood is the season that comes after winter, after the peak winter. Therefore, wood is at the growth stage. Wood is very strong. Wood is very strong. Do we find the wood being rooted? The wood is rooted. And so this will be a day master, a weekday master, unrooted, out of season, and supported and the left and the right embrace. So sometimes this is known as the left-right embrace and this double protrusion or double embrace in a way will be where producers on both sides. So usually the chart for this type indicates dedication to literature, dedication to the art, which means a bit extreme. There's a bit more on the extreme end. But if you look into the other nature as well, he has a hurting officer with a 7K. So there's a hurting officer, Fasa. Hurting officer is rebellious. Rebellious. And 7K, of course, is also a fighter, a warrior, but then hidden. So therefore, this is a hidden warrior with a rebellious Fasa, to which, of course, this also represents that 7 killing is in his chart throughout many parts of his life and hidden within this chart, growing into the chart. And therefore, this kind of people may consider that not just is he dedicated to literature, education, and art, but he uses that for rebellion. Uses that to be a political activist. And so this person uses his skill, his innate impression for participating in areas such as this. So he was very politically active, social criticism, and unfortunately, he was assassinated. Yeah, as it is. Also for his work. Right, so these are where we now see the use of direct resource and how direct resource plays a role. So now what kind of characteristics if somebody has direct resource? So imagine the picture of a direct resource is one that is refined, cultured, upright, self-cultivated, optimistic, very merciful, very patient, very resourceful, empathetic. You would like to be with a direct resource person. But sometimes the downside of resource person is the feeling of inadequate, imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is when you feel that you have gone beyond your qualification. You know? You have gone beyond. Maybe you think that you can only be a senior manager, but now you are the CEO. So therefore, the feeling of being promoted beyond your qualification, that is the nagging feeling of those with direct resource. Indirect resource is again an idealist, one that believes in a perfect world. They believe, unlike seven killing. Seven killing is pragmatic. Seven killings philosophy includes wake up. This world, not everyone is good. You have to be the biggest bully. But here, the direct resource is no. Everybody is. We should live in the perfect world. We should live in a world so sheltered, so taken care of that the person has never seen horror or hardship. And because of all the abundant resources, servants, and everything, the person is slow. So direct resource people are very slow to act. They become very indecisive, sometimes also due to overthinking and also lack of motivation. And one of the reasons for the lack of motivation and not reach is because a resource counters output. As resource element counters output, it reduces the output's ability to generate wealth. Therefore, a lot of resource will become what we call very educated but don't make money one. Overqualified but doesn't make money. So sometimes we say too much resource, counter output. It can be something along the line of somebody who spent their life, they go for university, after they graduated, they go for master's degree, then they go for PhD, and then they are 30 years old with zero working experience. And then when they come out, they are wondering why they could not get a high paying job. As a PhD holder, they expect to have a high paying job. Unfortunately, they only are what we call theorycratic. So theorycratic, basically sometimes in the today's world, we call them armchair expert. And in the world of social media today, there are so many armchair experts. People dispensing judgment, making moral statements, and also talking about the military strategies of Ukraine and Russia, talking about the medical efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines, like as though they are. So these are sometimes too much theory, but not enough action. This is where they say can do, cannot, can talk but cannot do. Can talk but cannot do. So this is the can talk, cannot do type of people. But they're very nice. They're very nice, very gullible. Even though they're blessed, this will be their particular uh, manifestation. Okay, so as usual, we come to the part. What is the part? How many? That's right. Kinte, correct. Neto lah. No action, talk only. Okay, that's very good. No action, talk only. Right. I, no, no. They talk. They do the talking. Somebody else do the dying. I think that would be the other part as well. Okay, so now you know the drill. This is where we now come to the counting. Again, my caveat is continue. My caveat is there. Please remember that don't simply count for the sake of counting, but it's more towards the strength, the season, the energy level for each of these stars that is very crucial. And direct resource, unlike seven killing where one is good enough, one, two, not so bad. So one or two is not so bad. One is authority. Two means you are rooted, and so life is very blissful. And of course, again, superstructure. Superstructure is super vibrant. No? So if you have seven in your Pachi, means you are completely surrounded by resources. And in other texts, it actually means reach to the level of Buddha, so to speak, indicating that this person normally this person becomes surrender to the universe in a sense that they live what we call a religious life, monkhood, where they have so much faith in the universe that that the universe will take care of them, will feed them, so they don't have to work. So therefore, no need to work anymore. Something like that. Super vibrant. More into that. So this super vibrant is not because some people think, oh, super vibrant. I like to be super vibrant. Super vibrant sounds nice. Yeah, but this super vibrant means basically you do nothing lah. You only enlighten your own self, but not really contribute much to society, to a bigger deal of things. Huh? Okay, so right now, if there are three resources, the thing about three resources, it becomes judgment. Why? Because too much resources is overthinking. Too much resources is overthinking. And a bit more resources becomes drowning. You are drowned by your own resources. So in part two, we will talk about the effects of drowning, the effects of over domineering direct resource that comes into it. Right, as we come into 7, 8, then this is where lazy or not. So we just look into direct resource indicate. Actually, by the time you have 4, 5, 6 means your chart not balanced really lah. When it's not balanced, then that's what happens to it. Yeah, as it is. Okay, now again we now move on into what are the favorable attributes. Again, it's all the same thing. Uh, Noble, high status in life. And the one thing about a direct resource is, I wouldn't say, again, as what I mentioned, direct resource controls output. I wouldn't say it despise money. Like this is with the intellectual snobbery that looks down on the merchants. Way back into ancient China, merchants are fourth-class citizens. First, you have the emperors, the feudal lords, the landlords, the artisans, and therefore to be a scholar has so much prestige that if you fail to be a scholar, if you cannot pass the imperial exams, then you go and become a merchant. You go and become an artisan because what to do? You failed the imperial exam. Therefore, this where their sense of unfavorable attribute is that they have this sense of not good in business. Okay. So one of the more frequently asked questions that people ask, can I do business? You check lah. If the person has a lot of DR, I then say no lah. If you got DR, no good in business. So therefore, don't find DR too many. This is not good for business because DR means you are not realistic lah. You are very unrealistic, not very adaptable. Adaptability, realistic approaches are all necessary in business. So you see more DR, then no lah. No lah into the part. As it is. All right. Now let's come into what happens when you find DI in the year pillar. Therefore, Now what happens if you find DR in the year pillar? Now the year pillar has always been noted for your ancestors, your grandparents. The year pillar is also your external environment. The year pillar represents your social facade, the facade, which is here in the stems. And therefore here, what happens if it is the year pillar? So year pillar means, as it is, ancestors are judicious, high social standing, taken care of, avid reader, and the year pillar also represents when you are young. When you are young. So seeing direct resource in young means you are very good with direct resource. All right. This one I will explain later. Not easy for women to have children. Okay. And so if ever the person who asks you for the reading, say, I want to have a child. My woman wants to have a child, and then you look at DR. If DR is present in the year, then you're gonna have some difficulty bearing children, yeah, as it is. The reason is the reason why they say that is again, the reason why I say that is because what is the children's star for a woman? What is the children's star for a woman? For a female, children is represented by what counters the resource. Therefore, seeing resource counter children. So the more direct resource that you have, the more difficult is it for you to bear children. Or at least that's how they read the chart. A bit more to that. This is a bit more minor, but we just. Now let's come into the month pillar. The month pillar is your career pillar. The month pillar is your work. The month pillar is your work. The month pillar is in your prime of your youth. Prime of your youth. And so if you have your childhood, if you have your childhood here, you have your school days here, this would be the prime of your years, your career, your peak, your growth stage. Therefore here, if you find direct resource, then this here would be for your so-called your work. And so that is where favorable, it becomes benevolent. Promotions in workplace comes easy. All right. But again, not too entrepreneurial. So if you find direct resource if you see direct resource, if you see direct resource here, especially on the structure, anywhere here, here or here, can I do business? No. Can I be? I know because you're not strong to be entrepreneur. I don't lack the grit that is necessary. Yeah. Therefore, that will be the one thing that we have to be mindful. But of course, again, this is very generalized, very generalized. There are people who can still do business. You need to know how to remedy. You need to look for remedies. You need to look for solution. But this is just the first impression that comes in. Now, the more direct resource that you have, the more religious you are. The more religious you are. And therefore, like to go for religious places, try to be a bit more noble people that you see. Okay, day pillar, as you know, day pillar means your spouse. Therefore, the day pillar represents your spouse. And it is good to find direct resource on your day pillar. Therefore, now this is you. This is your spouse pillar. This is your spouse palace. And if you have direct resource, noble. You have a spouse that supports you. In a way, you have a spouse that mothers you. Therefore, not only that, later I will talk about the devouring mother's syndrome. Direct resource represents mother, and to have the mother in the spouse palace means that type of woman, the type, not necessarily woman, even, but greater to the degree of men, more to men than to generic, but it's still applicable for both, that the day master looks for a spouse that replaces the mother. That's why men, because, the mother takes care of the man for the first half of his life. Now he needs to look for another woman to continue that job. And so the wife will have to take over the mother's role. So, in fact, one of the famous founders of psychoanalysis has this something to say about this chart as well. Yeah, that's it. And so that is why the male day master tends to marry older women, because it becomes subconscious. It is subconsciously looking for a mother. Now that doesn't sound nice for the woman, isn't it? I don't think any woman who wants to marry a husband just to take over the role of the mother. Yeah, especially got mother-in-law problems some more. But anyway, in general sense, that spouse will be dignified, dependable, and it will support the day master wholeheartedly. Male or female, that's it. Male or female, that's it. But the downside, of course, is the day master expects to be taken care of by the spouse, because the spouse will have a higher earning capacity. So this will be the case where one can say that. So that is why sitting on resource, when you sit on resource, your spouse makes more money than you, and then you expect to be taken care by the spouse. So this will be the life of the tai, the life of the thing. For female, that would be how one can also see good life, good life into it as well on the day. All right, now let's move on to the last pillar, which is the hour pillar. The hour pillar, of course, is noted to be your retirement, noted to be at the older age, as you move from right to left, or left to right. It also represents your investment because it's passive income. So first you make, so first you work for your money. So this one pillar is you working for your money, and this pillar is your money working for you. So for your money to work for you, your children. So that is why in the past we call them your children's palace. Because in the past, children are your investments. The more you produce, the more hands on the farm, and hopefully one of them takes care of you. And therefore, this will be your investment, your retirement, your children. And so for the case of the our pillar C resource means spiritual endeavors, sometimes get obsessed with pursuing some ideologies. Maybe religious. That means sticking to some ideology. Sticking to some ideology. Industrious, dutiful, meticulous. And therefore, that would be the one that sees direct resource at the end. And they prefer to use counseling techniques, encouragements to managing children. Now, maybe if you, I'm sure this is quite stereotypical of the Asians. Even the Westerners begin to discover that Asian parenting skills are known to be the tiger parent, the tiger mom, and the tiger dads. And therefore, Asian parents in the past or even until now very seldom use counseling techniques and encouragement. It will normally be gaslighting and high pressure, giving them generational trauma on their children, emotional damage, as they often do. And therefore, here this will be encouraging. So, therefore, if you see direct resource in the hour pillar, this person sticks to their ideology. They stick to their ideology. They stick to it. So, if you see direct resource in the hour pillar, this person sticks to his or her own ideology. That would be resolute, never changing, never falter. Because most of the time, when we age, we become more skeptical. We give up. Right? When we become, we like, forget it. What's the point of fighting? But therefore, this would be people who are still resolute at the end. When you see direct resource at the end, you can respect their resolute. So when you see direct resource, onto the our pillar, you see them resolute in their ideology. You see them encouraging. You see them consulting and kind to children, so to speak. Therefore, this would be how we can see a direct resource into the chart. And so now the question, of course, is what happens when there is no resource? Well, we'll discuss that more in our next part, but no direct resource, of course, again, usually means no affinity. Usually. But again, as I mentioned, direct resource is something that more often than not is the exception because we always would like resource. A company can operate without assets, without liability, without expenses, but no company can operate without revenue. And so likewise for direct resource. If it is not in the chart, there is no affinity to learning, no affinity, which can be good, which can be good. People with no direct resource in their chart is not square, People who are not in chart have a tendency to think out of the box or wander around more often. In a way that if you don't have resource on your chart, then what fills up the vacant space? Hurting officers, 7K, eating God. These are all wandering day masters. Day masters who wander around outside the box. The EG, the HO, the 7K, these are all the indirect wealth. These are all people who wanders outside the box. And so direct resource is the one inside the box. So if you don't have direct resource, then you don't have affinity to structured learning. You don't have the ability to be confined to the four corners of proper education. Doesn't mean you are dumb. Doesn't mean you are not. Doesn't mean you're not educated. It's just that your thinking, your attitude is just so different. And now, before I close up for today, uh, just a little bit more. Then before maybe this way I can also continue to the next part. But just to say that there is an extra on the direct resource is the elegant seal. Okay. So if all Pakcik chart should contain resource. And if you have resource star, let it be that your resource star is an elegant seal. Elegant seal. And so this is extra power, extra strong. Therefore, making it into what I call a talent star. That means a profound knowledge into it. Now, the elegant seal will all be graveyard. All of them are graveyard. They're all graveyard stars. They are graveyard stars to the day master. So first of all, you look into the day branch. Look into the day branch. Okay, please, actually, there's no need to memorize all these things. Just look around and then you can figure out the code. The cheat code is very simple. Elegant seal star is a graveyard star. And it's a graveyard star to all the three combinations. What is the combination for wood? What is wood combination? Hai, Ma, Wei. Okay, the wood combination is Hai, Ma, Wei, which is the pig, which is the rabbit, and which is the goat. And therefore, the elegant seal is the goat. Is the goat. What is the fire combination? The fire combination is your yin, wu xu. Therefore, that would be your tiger, horse, and what? Dog. Therefore, when you have the tiger, when you have the tiger, when you have the horse, and you have the what? You have the dog. And so the elegant seal will be what? Will be the dog. Got it? Understand? Simple, yeah? Therefore, look in the branch very quickly. We can see where is the elegant seal. Huh? So very quickly, just a very quick one. Not all of them has it, but then you can, how you can see it now. Let's say, for example, John Dewey. Let's take a look into the last chart here for that part. John Dewey. What? John Dewey's day branch is the rabbit. So rabbit belongs to what combination? Rabbit belongs to the wood combination. Hai, Mao, Wei, which is the pig, the rabbit, and the goat. Is there a goat or not? Is there goat or not? Yes, there's a goat. Therefore, this is elegant seal. Huh? Therefore, this is elegant seal. So this is elegant seal. And so if you have an elegant seal, therefore that means there's an extra direct resource power, and this happens on the young. This happens on the year. Therefore, it happens when he was young. It happens when he was young, and this is the fasa, which also means status. Status. Yeah, he's standing in society. Therefore, this person has a propensity to pursue intellectual, to pursue academic and intellectual. And later, when we move on to eating God, eating God is a writer. Eating God is an author. Eating God is a producer. It's a producer. Therefore, this person would fit very nicely into the life of an professor, an academic, a very strong person who can, and of course, when you have direct resource, in your year pillar, you are somewhat stick to do something for children, uh, do something for sticking to your ideology through your writing and so on. Okay, so this is where we also look into looking at the elegant seal. So elegant seal is an extra. One of the shensha is under the shensha category, and you can then see whether this person has it. So this is so earlier we have Diana. So Diana asked the question, can you discuss people that have no direct resource? They may not have direct resource, but perhaps they may have elegant seal. And when they do have elegant seal, it will be recognized or treated the same as having direct resource. The same as having. So in that case, when you read the chart, check for this. Don't ask, oh, you have no direct resource at all. That's not true. Even though you don't see direct resource, but there is elegant seal, so there is direct resource. There is direct resource. All right, so that's it for today. That's all that we have time. We'll wrap it up. I'll see you next week for part 2. As you look into the problems, the sitting and the palaces, then we can move to part 3 for the remedies and how do we solve if you ever have direct resource problems. All right, good night, and see you. Thank you.